Today on Personal Injury Court.
And I hear this commotion, and I see this guy with this long knife, and he's pointing it at the clerk. I was thinking, that girl's gonna die.
I think he's been watching too many Clint Eastwood movies or something.
This is your hand?
That is my hand, Your Honor.
You're asking this court to award you a total of $150,000.
Mr. Davis should have just acted as a customer and not become heroic and try to play Captain America or something inside my store.
You have a man who tries to save someone, nearly gets his head cut off, and you simply say, look, that's the price of being a hero.
Judge Gino Brogdon spent 10 years on the bench ruling on cases worth billions of dollars. Now he presides over some of the largest claims in TV history. This is Personal Injury Court.
Good day, everyone. This is the matter of Davis versus Scott. From the documents that you all filed with this court, it's my understanding, Mr. Davis, that you are suing Mr. Scott, who owns Village Mart, for injuries that you received when you were in his store. You're asking this court to award you $47,000 for past medical expenses, $28,000 for future medical expenses, $75,000 for pain and suffering, for a total of $150,000. Is that correct?
That's correct, Your Honor.
And Mr. Scott, you own the Village Mart, and you say that Mr. Davis is responsible for his own injuries, correct?
Yes, sir, Your Honor.
So let's get into the legal sauce. Mr. Davis, tell me what led you to go to the store.
Well, Your Honor, I used to work as a dishwasher. One of the things that I do every night after I get off of work is I walk by his store. It's on the way from my place. It's the only place that's open after 9 o'clock, after 8 o'clock, actually. So I usually go there, and
That's kind of your routine.
Pretty much. It's more of like a ritual of mine.
How many times would you say you had gone to Village Mart before this particular evening?
Well, if we count them, they're countless. I mean, at least 3-4 times a week, Your Honor.
Okay, so he's a good customer there, Mr. Scott, right? He's the kind of guy you want coming through.
I agree with that, John.
Right? And this injury happened in your store, right?
Yes, sir, on our premises.
You own Village Mart.
Yes, sir.
But you say he's responsible for his own injuries.
Yes, sir. I mean, I've owned Village Mart for about 10 years. It's a local business here.
Just a no-frills business.
Well, I mean, we tried to cater to our customers. A lot of times they come to get, like early morning breakfast type items, some milk, juices.
So, Mr. Davis, you would go by this shop, get a little bit to eat, get something to drink, get some snacks. Before this night, you never had an incident
No,
at
I've
the
never
store.
had an incident there, and the staff is always friendly, so, I go there,
So on this night, how did this happen?
Well, I get there, it's around 9:30, 9:45-ish.
Kind of the usual time.
Yeah, just about, and so I get there and I walk straight to the cooler.
Okay.
I said to myself, I'm not gonna have beer today, I have beer most every night, so I'm not gonna have beer tonight, I look at myself and, and I hear this commotion. And I'm like,
And what did you hear?
What I heard, was somebody grunting for one. It was kind of like, like gimme, and I'm going, what's going on? So I'm like sneakily I go by and I take a look, and I see this guy with this long knife. I'm like, what the heck? And he's pointing it at the clerk, the young lady.
What were you thinking at that point?
I was thinking that girl's gonna die. He's pointing at, give me the money, give me the money, give me the money, and she's frazzling and she's, clicking keys on the keyboard and things, nothing's happening, and he's like, give me the money, I'm gonna cut you, give me the money, I'm gonna cut you. Of course, she's scared out of her mind.
Now we've got some security cam footage that's been submitted to the court from that evening. Let's take a peek at it. So you see this happening?
Yes, sir.
Where are you when this gentleman is at the cash register?
Your Honor? Can I show you?
Yes, please.
So, Your Honor, I was just about...
So where are you in the store?
I'm just about over here. See where that behind his head, where that column is?
So you're behind
him. Those shelves.
You're behind him?
Yeah, well, yeah, I'm behind him, yes.
Okay, so then what do? When you see him and you realize something's going wrong here...
Well, when I see that Ms. Moore is she's frantic and she's scared, and the guy's taunting her with this knife, I grabbed the first thing that I could. It was a glass bottle of iced tea. I chucked it at the guy, trying to, hopefully hit him in the head and maybe knock him out. It actually hit him in the back, which was not, what I was intending to do.
Now you got his attention.
Well, yeah, thing shutters on the floor. The guy comes at me with this, with this machete. So I'm like, I try to defend myself, and he gets me in the hand.
So you got your hand up this way.
I got my hand up because he's going for my head.
Okay, what are you thinking at this point?
So at this point, I'm like, I'm gonna die here tonight, but at least, this girl is gonna be okay. So he gets me, and then I go to grab my hand because I see all the blood, and I'm like this, and he gets me around the side of the head here with the machete. At this point,
actually hit you with the blade?
Hit me with the machete, with the blade, got a gash here, I have about 26 staples here.
Yes, sir.
So
you must have been freaking out.
I'm woozy over here. I'm losing blood, and I'm getting, I'm almost feeling kind of faint, but I guess he takes advantage of this, and he pushes me down to the ground, and then he just starts kicking me in the ribs. He's just kicking me and kicking me. I have 3 bruised ribs and 1 broken rib.
You may return to the podium. Thank you, sir. Now, Mr. Scott, this is bad stuff to happen in anybody's store, right?
Yes, sir.
You must have been alarmed.
Yes, sir, absolutely.
So tell me how you first were aware that something had happened.
Well, I got the notification. I was not on the premises at the time, but I got the notification of it that there had been a robbery at my store, and the gentleman had reacted. I personally feel he reacted overwhelmingly. He shouldn't have reacted in that manner.
So he shouldn't have tried to save your employee?
I believe that the gentleman reacted on his own accord and said that was more heroic action that
girl probably wouldn't be
was
here
not
now.
totally necessary.
So you feel like you saved her life?
If I didn't do something to try and deter the situation, she probably wouldn't be here right now.
Coming up.
We're talking like the employee's not in the room. You brought your employee with you.
The robber came in suddenly, dressed in black, and he was just waving a machete around.
I know you were frightened. What do you think about this man coming to try to save your life? What was going through your mind when you got hit in the head with that machete?
I'm going to die. That was what I was thinking.
If an man with pots and pans, the world would be a kitchen. We don't determine when things going to happen and how they're going to be complex.
And I see this guy with this long knife. I'm like, what the heck? And he's pointing it at the clerk.
What were you thinking at that point?
I was thinking, that girl's gonna die.
We're talking like the employee's not in the room. You brought your employee with you.
Yes, I did, sir.
So, ma'am, would you stand up and please come to the podium?
Yes, Your Honor.
For the record, what's your name?
My name is Brittany Moore.
And what do you recall happened that night?
Well, I had just started the night shift. It was my first time covering an evening shift. And the robber came in suddenly, dressed in black, and he was just waving a machete around.
I know you were frightened.
Yes, sir. I was very frightened. I felt threatened. I'd never experienced anything like that before. That was my last night working at that convenience store.
Yes, ma'am. We appreciate you telling us about it. You may return to your seat.
Thank you, Your Honor.
So, Mr. Scott, I noticed that you've got some wire going across. Is that something you had your folks put up?
It's just more or less a precaution for someone to basically try to come across a counter or something like that. We never had major incidents at the store before. We have been robbed before.
So you've had prior robberies?
Yes, sir. We have had a prior robbery.
Ever with a weapon or a machete?
No, sir. I've never heard of anyone actually getting robbed in the neighborhood in that manner. I mean, in that fashion or form.
And Mr. Davis, on the times that you were there, you'd never seen a robbery or really even anything go wrong.
This is a nice neighborhood in a nice town. Everybody knows each other kind of place.
So, Mr. Scott, you see these severe injuries, really a near-death experience that happens in your store. Your employee is frightened out of her wits. And you still think this isn't your fault?
No, sir. I don't feel like it's my responsibility.
Tell me why not.
Well, very simple, Your Honor. I have no control over a customer. Customer's actions.
You call this guy a customer?
I think he's been watching too many Clint Eastwood movies or something. I don't know.
You don't call this guy a customer. Gentlemen, you can't talk at the same time.
I don't even like Clint Eastwood.
Hold on. You can't talk at the same time. So do you call this guy a customer, or are you referring to Mr. Davis?
I'm referring to Mr. Davis.
Okay, so you can't control what a customer does, but you got a guy in your store with a machete.
If you are
But I think you overreacted. I think you intensified the situation.
Any decent human being.
I have warned you, if you don't stop talking to each other, I'm going to dismiss this case. So, Mr. Scott, you believe that Mr. Davis should have darted out the door and left your employee to fare for herself?
I think Mr. Davis should have just acted as a customer and not become heroic and try to play Captain America or something inside my store.
So just do nothing?
Circumstances. I train my employees very well that in these kinds of situations that they are just to give in to whoever the assailant is.
She should have given the money and nothing else happened, and this man with the machete would have just left the store.
Absolutely, Your Honor. Absolutely.
Next.
When I put my hand over my other hand,
Yes.
that's when the guy went with the machete for my head.
But did you ever think of just ducking and letting the storm pass so that no one got hurt?
I can't use my hand.
This is your hand?
That is my hand, Your Honor.
Sir, I tell you, for you to step in is a real noble thing. However, you did put yourself in that situation.
The robber came in suddenly, dressed in black, and he was just waving a machete around.
If I didn't do something to try and deter the situation, she probably wouldn't be here right now.
Did you ever think of just ducking and letting the storm pass so that no one got hurt?
As long as he was taking her, Your Honor, and as shakily as this guy was getting closer and closer to her, I said, you know what? If I don't do something, if I leave here and then I found out that this girl was dead, how am I gonna feel? What is that gonna make me look like?
Now, Mr. Scott, you gotta know that saving somebody else, there's some value to that, right?
He intensified the circumstances. Any action gonna get a reaction. The gentleman basically wanted the money.
You think he made it worse by trying to be a hero?
He made a whole lot worse, Your Honor. He should actually be suing the guy that did the damage to him, not me.
Mr. Scott did not hit you with a machete.
No,
What do you think about
It
that?
happened in his establishment, Your Honor. And to just leave and not do anything, you gotta be kidding me.
Sir, I tell you, for you to step in is a real noble thing. However, you did put yourself in that situation. You now have these injuries.
I do.
And you want Mr. Scott to pay for it, right?
Well, yes.
In fact, you're asking
Yes,
this
Your
court to give you $47,000 for past medicals and $28,000 for future medicals.
That's correct, Your Honor.
Tell me about your injuries.
Well, my hand is rendered useless now. I can't use this hand anymore. I worked as a dishwasher. I worked long.
So you
long
need
hours a
both
day,
your
so
hands.
I need both my hands. I also used to play flamenco guitar.
You did?
Yes, that was one of my biggest passions. And so now I can't use my hand.
So you definitely need that hand.
I need that hand because this is my cleffing hand. This is my strumming hand.
You look pretty happy there.
Yes.
So you're also a musician.
That was my passion. I mean, I said, you know what? This is my job. This is what I do to make a living, but this is what I do to make a life, Your Honor.
Yes, sir. Now, you submitted a photo to this court of your hand.
I did.
Let's look at it on the plasma screen. This is your hand?
That is my hand, Your Honor.
That is nasty, Mr.
That
Scott.
is what, yes.
I agree with that, Your Honor.
That is a nasty, nasty injury.
I agree with that, Your Honor. I have sympathy for that, but I still feel like he intensified his own action situation and caused that injury to take place.
Paid a real price for being a hero.
I think that's a reality that have to be accepted.
But a good thing, right?
But a good thing, but at the same time, the wrong thing.
Now, you also have a bandage on your head.
I do.
So tell me how that happened.
Well, when I put my hand over my other hand, that's when the guy went with the machete for my head.
And hit you in the
he
head
hit me
with
right
the blade?
Here. Like I said, I have 26 staples here.
What was going through your mind when you got hit in the head with that
I'm going
machete?
to die. That was what I was thinking. And as I'm on the ground and this guy is kicking me, then I hear that ding from the cash register.
Okay.
And immediately it was like something went off in his head, and he's like, "Ooh, the money's here." So So
what does he do?
over.
Exactly.
He stopped, he bolted
Exactly.
over, he grabbed the money, and he ran.
So, Mr. Scott, you have a man who tries to save someone, nearly gets his head cut off, and you simply say, look, that's the price of being a hero.
Well, I mean, I wouldn't make it that simple, Your Honor, but at
how
the same
simple is
time,
it?
I mean, if an hand were pots and pans, the world would be a kitchen. We don't determine when things going to happen and how they're going to be complex. But your reactions is going to get action.
Yes, Yes,
and
sir.
that's exactly what Mr. Davis done here. He reacted to something.
So basically, he
content.
paid the price. We've been talking again like Ms. Moore is not in the room. Ms. Moore, would you stand back at the podium?
Yes, Your Honor.
Now, Mr. Scott says that he is giving you training.
I
So
don't-
what was your training? What were you supposed to do that night?
My training was simply to hand over whatever was demanded by the criminal, and which is what I attempted to do.
What do you think about this man coming to try to save your life?
Well,
Gratitude, I'm sure.
yes, I was very grateful that he had caused a distraction in order for me to get the money to the robber. However, Your Honor.
I knew you were going to say but. Why but?
Well, simply because I believe that the robber would have left had he not challenged him.
So you too believe that he's the author of his own fate?
Yes, Your Honor.
Exactly.
I completely disagree, Your Honor.
We have taken some measures because the incident did occur. We've installed a panic button that gives a direct alert to the police department.
For the cashier?
For the cashier.
See,
and
they
anyone else
needed-
in the
see, they
store. We
needed
actually
that.
have-
Excuse me, sir. What else have you done?
And we've hired security.
See, they're at fault.
The verdict is in.
Frankly, your actions, they give me a lot of pride because people need to be noble and brave. The law doesn't say that people who do right get that held against them later. Mr. Scott, you say, had he stayed out of this and let your training take place, Miss Moore could have given up the cash and the robber with the machete would have left and you all would have not have met me today. I think I've heard what I need to hear in the evidence. I'm ready to make my decision.
I believe that the robber would have left had he not challenged him.
So you too believe that he's the author of his own fate.
I completely disagree, Your Honor.
And the reason you believe that is you eventually got the register open, you gave the robber the money, and he left.
Yes, Your Honor.
Gentlemen, I think I've heard what I need to hear in the evidence. I'm ready to make my decision. Gentlemen, in every personal injury case, the plaintiff, that is you, Mr. Davis, you have to prove that the defendant, Mr. Scott, was wrong and that his wrong caused your harm, your injuries. It is clear that you are severely injured. Frankly, your actions, they give me a lot of pride because people need to be noble and brave. However, you did take some risk on your own by throwing that bottle and getting involved. Mr. Scott, you say, had he stayed out of this and let your training take place, Miss Moore could have given up the cash and the robber with the machete would have left and you all would have not have met me today.
Absolutely, Your Honor.
Well, here today, I've got several things to consider. Remember, wrong caused harm? Well, wrong and caused are at issue. Here, we're fortunate it was not a death case. But I find you both wrong. But the inquiry doesn't end with the two of you. There is a man with a machete. Now, you said during the evidence that he ought to be sued. The law requires that I put some blame on him because he's the one that hurt you. It's called apportionment. Here, Mr. Davis, you are suing for a total award of $150,000. I'm not going to award that to you because I find that you are 29% responsible. 51%, I appropriately put on the man who was wielding the machete who caused your injuries. I find, Mr. Scott, you are 20% responsible. Here, Mr. Davis, I find that you deserve an award of $30,000. That is my final decision, and this matter is adjourned.